from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, Devotional Service. We'll begin with the recitation of the verses. It's a very short chapter, but very important.
अथ द्वादशोऽध्यायः भक्तियोगः। अर्जुन उवाच एवं सततयुक्ताय भक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तं तेषां के योगवित्तमाः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः। ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रताः। क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषामव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखं देहवद्भिरवाप्यते। ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात्। भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् मय्येव मनमाधत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः। अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय। अभ्यासेऽप्यसमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि। अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान्। श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ध्यानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागस्त्यागात् शान्तिरनन्तरम्। अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः। मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः। यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैर्मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः। अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः। यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः। समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः। तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौली सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिर्भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः। ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धधाना मत्परमा भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम 12ोऽध्यायः।
Hare Krishna, welcome once again for the 14th session of the Course on Life Lessons from Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 12, entitled Devotional Service. We'll begin with the invocation. Om Ajnanati Vedandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakkurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sagana Raghunat Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Shabhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vikamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanaswate Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the last chapter of the middle section of Bhagavad Gita, consisting of 6 chapters on Bhakti Yoga. So one of the shortest chapter and the most important chapter, because it's talking about pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service, unmotivated devotional service, uninterrupted devotional service. And this chapter begins with an inquiry by Arjuna as to who is better, the personalist or impersonalist. So one who believes that God is a person, and another who thinks that God is not a person, he is everywhere. So this is very important. Why? Because accordingly our activities also are decided by that. Supposing there's a very important person, and if you have a personal relationship with him, it makes sense to have some relationship with him, and your work also becomes meaningful. But supposing you don't have a relationship with him, supposing there's a prime minister also or some important person, but you don't have a personal relationship with him, even if that person exists, it doesn't really benefit you much. Some benefit definitely will be there, but it will not be to the maximum. So that's why this is very important, whether one should have a personalist approach or an impersonalist approach. So a personalist devotee worships Krishna. What does he do? A personalist devotee who believes that Krishna is a person, that Krishna can reciprocate with me, Krishna loves for me, Krishna cares for me. So one who has such a conception, he engages body, mind, words wholeheartedly to serve Krishna. And the impersonalist meditator worships impersonal Brahman. Although the Brahman feature is also an aspect of the Supreme Lord, it is considered inferior because we don't have the experience of the knowledge or the bliss feature. That makes us incomplete. So someone chooses to worship the impersonal Brahman. That is all pervasive feature. Some people want to see God everywhere. So in the world around them. And others, they try to see the Paramatma in the heart. And going further, one can see the Bhagavan feature with all the opulences. So Arjuna wants to know, because he is a personalist, he has been already established a relationship with Krishna as a friend and devotee. So he is asking about others who may not have that kind of relationship. So who is better? Who's trying to approach Krishna in his personal features, or who's trying to approach Krishna through his impersonal feature? Just like you have a bank, you're a member of a bank, you have a big, nowadays particularly, it has become so vast, the banking operations. Supposing you have a problem which has to get resolved and it is never getting resolved. So what you do, you go and meet personally the highest person, and then it very quickly it gets resolved. So similarly, if you want to reach out to God, the best way is to worship his personal form. But if someone deliberately chooses to avoid that for his own vested interests, then what is his status? So here Krishna then wants to establish the supremacy of Krishna Bhakti, direct worship of the Lord as compared to indirect worship. Now, pure devotees of Krishna are most perfect in yoga. Yoga means if you want to uplift yourself, you have to perform yoga. Just like the train engine is there, it is pulling all the locomotives. Otherwise, these will not move, although they are on the track. Unless they are connected to a very powerful engine, they will not reach their destination. Similarly, without performing yoga, without connecting ourselves to the Yogeshwara, we cannot make any progress in life. That's what we see in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. All the warriors were very powerful, very experienced, but they all had to give up their lives. As we saw in the last chapter also, it was predestined because they were not perfectly in relationship with Krishna. Only the Pandavas, because they were already in a perfect relationship with Krishna, they could come out successful. So that's why it says here, pure devotees of Krishna are most perfect in yoga. So which means there's nothing in between them and the Lord. If your devotion is mixed, then it puts an obstacle in our relationship with Krishna. Just like a magnet is there, it's covered with some, or iron is covered with some iron filings or some mud, it cannot be attracted by the magnet. Similarly, if our devotion is mixed, then we cannot attract Krishna, and that is not a perfection in yoga. And we will not be able to solve the problems of life. So the path of the impersonal Brahman worshippers is troublesome. As you say, God has three features, or absolute truth has three features. One is the all-pervasive feature of the Brahman. Just like the sunlight is there. From the sunlight, so many things are being produced. The whole material existence is possible, made possible because of the sunlight and the sun heat. But that is one aspect of the Lord. Another aspect is the Paramatma feature of the Lord, who is residing in every atom and in the heart of everything. In other words, he knows everything. Existence is one thing, knowledge is something. So this Paramatma is another expansion of the Lord. And above both these features is the Bhagavan feature, who has multi-energies. And but those who choose to follow this path of impersonal Brahman worshippers is troublesome. Same example, if there's a great personality, some people are their fans. Fan means they keep pictures of that person in their house or whatever, and they show their uh, attraction for them. But it doesn't make much sense, because unless you meet that person in person, the relationship doesn't begin. So bhakti is simple and easy path of personalists, ananya bhaktas. For the simple means Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, offer me with love and devotion, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. So Krishna is concerned, he is interested in the love and is not interested in any material offerings, unlike the demigods. So therefore, bhakti means only to Krishna. And the other things, they look like bhakti, but they are not really bhakti. Bhakta is possible only with Bhagavan, and there's only one Bhagavan. So this bhakti is simple and easy. For whom is it easy? For those who are personalists, those who see the personal form of God and engage in his personal service. So how is it possible to reach that? By Ananya Bhakta. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Pariprasute Tesham Nityaviyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam. So Krishna says, sorry, did you get back my screen? So now there are progressive stages of bhakti. So one may say, okay, I cannot come to the level of ananya bhakta or pure bhakti. How do I reach the stage from where I am? So now Krishna, in this section, he categorizes the different levels of devotion. So first, the topmost is bhakti with the internal senses. We have external senses which keep on changing. According to my particular body, I have some senses like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So this keep changing from body to body every lifetime. But we have what is known as the internal senses. Two types of internal senses are there. One is the subtle body has some internal senses. We have the subtle eyes, subtle nose, and all these have subtle senses are there. And the soul also has some senses inbuilt in it. So bhakti, when it is done with these internal senses, in other words, when the soul directly engages in devotional service, that is known as samrana atmika bhakti. Samran. And then the next level is, one step below is manana atmika. That is with the help of the mind. Actually, the senses are inferior to mind, mind is inferior to intelligence, intelligence is inferior to the soul. In that sense, the soul, when we done, devotion is done from the soul platform, then it is said to be the highest. Then next, the mananatmika, that is, we are doing it with the mind. And next, below that is the abhyasurupa bhakti, or when we are engaging our senses. When we cannot engage our mind, when we cannot engage our soul, at least we begin with engaging our senses. So these are basically fixing the mind and intelligence on Krishna. So if we cannot do this highest level of bhakti, where we dedicate our soul, we can at least engage our mind and intelligence. And this, especially if the first one is difficult, and one should at least endeavor to do so. Some things are difficult in the beginning, but at least when we are putting some effort, the Lord appreciates that. So that is that. Next is bhakti with the external senses. If endeavoring is also difficult to work for Krishna, in other words, if someone is already doing some devotion, you support him by giving him the necessary ingredients for the worship of Krishna. Just like we go to the temple, the pujari does the main worship, but we supply the ingredients required for the worship. We sponsor the worship. So this is one thing. And the next is, if working for Krishna is difficult, give up the results of, okay, you can say, no, even that I cannot do. I cannot give any donation. So then what you can do, at least whatever money you're earning, instead of enjoying it all for yourself, you develop the mentality of using it for the benefit of others. Instead of being a kripana, miser, you become a brahmana when you start working for others by giving the results. Now, in the greater analysis, we have what is known as abhyasa, practice. Why practice? What should practice lead to? A practice should lead to knowledge. Initially, we are doing things mechanically, like chanting and all this, hearing, reading. All this initially they are by force, by scripture. We are blindly following the scriptures. And when we do like that, gradually we come to understand why we have to do what we are doing. That is known as jnana. And then what's the knowledge? We come to meditation. We go deeper. We try to analyze and go deeper into some application of this knowledge. And then that leads to practical activity known as tyaga, where we start renouncing the fruits of work. In other words, we make better use of the results of any activity. So renouncing means using it properly. That is the real meaning of renunciation. Doesn't mean giving up the fruits of work. Utilizing the fruits of work properly is also known as tyaga. Now, what are the qualities that? So when we practice devotion at these different levels and gradually go to the higher and higher stages, then we start developing some qualities which are very attractive to Krishna himself. Actually, Krishna is attractive. That's why his name is Krishna, which means he attracts everyone. But there are some qualities in the devotee that attract even Lord Krishna. And what are they? That is, particularly, it all depends on the devotion to Krishna. When devotion to Krishna is there, all these primary and the secondary qualities will be manifest themselves. We don't have to separately endeavor for them. So in the previous chapter, Krishna concluded after showing the universal form, he said that this form of mine, that is two-handed form, which is the source of the four-handed form and the universal form, that is the localized feature and the all-pervasive feature. He said that only by pure devotion can one realize this two-handed form. So he emphasized the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service unto his personal form as Shyama Sundara. Because only by the pleasing the Lord can we gain the ability to understand him. So attachment to Krishna's personal form is the highest spiritual realization. So if we have to realize ourselves also, just like if I have to see myself clearly, if the bright sunlight around me, I can see not only myself, but I can see everything around me clearly. Similarly, if I have to realize myself, then we have to realize our connection with God and our connection with other living entities and material nature. So it has been emphasized in the earlier chapter, and Arjuna personally experienced this in the previous chapter. That is how one should be attached to the personal form. And nevertheless, there are people who prefer to meditate on the impersonal Brahman. Just like some people are shy to come and meet a person. They want to maintain some safe distance because they think themselves unqualified, or so they have not developed a relationship with someone. So they tend to be near him, but not very near. So there will always be people who do not have established a personal relationship. So in this chapter, Arjuna inquires about these two classes of people. He thus clarifies his own position of being attached to the personal form of Krishna. In response, Krishna establishes that pure Bhakti Yoga is the highest process of realization of the absolute truth and the easiest means for attaining his association. So if we want to have complete knowledge of the absolute truth or the Supreme Lord, then it is possible only by Bhakti Yoga. That is, why these people go for the impersonal Brahman? They want benefits other than what Bhakti can give. Bhakti definitely will give the best results, but there are some people, they want something inferior, which they may not be able to get through Bhakti. So they choose to worship the impersonal form. Just like this Ekalavya was there. He went to Dronacharya, but Dronacharya did not want to give him important lessons because there are some standard protocols being followed in society. And if someone starts relaxing those rules, then there will be chaos in society. That's why we see people, all of them going for some engineering college and not getting a job. So what is the point? It's better to engage a person according to his talent and abilities. So similarly, that was the system why Dronacharya didn't want to teach Ekalavya this archery was with a specific purpose. It is not to discriminate against anyone. It is that everyone has a particular qualification. It's better to do that particular. But this Ekalavya, he chose to learn it anyway. And he installed a form of Dronacharya and he started learning archery. In fact, he excelled that skill also. But later he eventually misused this art. Even Karna was the same thing. He deceived his guru, Vishwamitra, and or Parshurama, I think. So he learned this art and he later got cursed. So this is the problem, this impersonal worshipping the impersonal form. Krishna also describes how bhakti can be practiced at multiple levels and the qualities of bhakta that make one dear to Krishna. So this is the quick summary of this chapter. Now, in this chapter, Arjuna begins with an inquiry. Who is better, personalist or impersonalist? Whether to wait for Krishna's instruction directly or to do bhakti in our own way. Just like if you are doing a PhD or something, then some people may think I don't want to meet my guide because he may be strict with me or I may not able to understand him. So to avoid him, they start doing some work on their own. And eventually they get frustrated, and with no other option, they come back to him. So this is what is happening. Arjuna wants to know who is better, the personalist or impersonalist. So who is the perfect knower of yoga or the process of quickly attaining you? If someone wants to attain perfection, just like people sometimes go to the coaching classes, they can read everything on their own, or they can attend the class where the teacher will not bother you and you need not bother the teacher with any questions. But if you have personal coaching, then all your doubts can be better clarified, and even that coach can understand what are your weakness and help you strengthen them. So who is perfect knower of yoga or the process of quickly attaining you? Yoga Vittama amongst the following two. So we have to quickly come to perfection. We cannot delay because of lifetime is short, especially in Kali Yuga with so many disqualifications. If you postpone this devotion and think that I will do it later, I have other important things to do, then it will make our life more and more difficult. So on our behalf, Arjuna is asking Krishna whether a personalist devotee who always worships you, bhaktas tvam paryupasate, is it that I should be devotion all the time, 24/7? Or is it optional? Sometimes I will do, sometimes I will not do. Huh? So is the next category is an impersonalist meditator who worships the transcendental Aksharam, unmanifest Aksharam, impersonal Brahman. In fact, even the atheist is one kind of an impersonalist only. What atheist is doing, he also knows that some things work very nicely in this world, and he tries to make them work properly. And eventually he thinks I don't need God because as long as things are going well in my life, I don't need to worship God. So he's indirectly worshipping the nature of God, the energies of God, but he's avoiding God. So whether a personalist devotee who always worships you, what does it mean? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Krishna had told in the 9th chapter. So what does it mean by worship? Manmana, always remember me. Madma bhava madbhakto, become my devotee. Ham namaskuru, offer your obeisances to me. And worship. Madhyaji means worship me. So Krishna has already instructed whether to do that or an impersonalist meditator who worships the transcendental Aksharam. Aksharam means beyond the three modes, an unmanifest, impersonal Brahman. So one is trying to solve his problems by worshipping Krishna, one is trying to solve the problems by his own effort. This important question will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth. Just like in the Mahabharata war, we see many talented people were there and they were trying to fight on their own strength. But the Pandavas, they chose to take the help of Lord Krishna directly, personal guidance they wanted. So we see that they came out victorious. So this is how important it is to choose between these two paths, and Arjuna wants to clarify this important matter. So this discussion will lead us to the conclusion that Krishna Bhakti is the supreme. Again and again in all the chapters, if you see carefully, Krishna is trying to emphasize Krishna Bhakti because he wants us to benefit the most. It's not that he's trying to be biased. He wants to see what is the best for us. And through Arjuna, he's instructing us. So pure devotees of Krishna are most perfect in yoga. If they want to attain perfection by connecting with the Yogeshwara Krishna, then it is best to be a pure devotee. Mayaveshya manoyema. Aveshya means personal form. My aveshya means my personal form. Manoyema means those who fix their minds on my personal form. When we say about form of the Lord, it means the name, quality, activities, and all these are included in the form. Just like when you fill up an application form, you are expected to give all the details. So similarly, when we say form of the Lord, it includes the name, the qualities, and activities. So those who fix their minds on my personal form, Nitya Yukta Upasite. Okay, having fixed their mind on my personal form, are they sitting silent? No. Nitya Yukta Upasite. They're always worshipping me. Upasite means worship me. Nitya means always. Right? Why they're always worshipping me? Desiring to associate with me. Yukta, Nitya Yukta. They want to be always connected with me. Just like if you have a very powerful person, you always keep in touch with him, you keep calling him, sending an email, a message. So you want to know that you are thinking about him and you want him to think about us. So the same thing the devotee is doing. Shraddhaya Paryopetas. Shraddhaya means with faith. What kind of faith? Paryupetas, great and transcendental faith. Faith can be in the three modes also, Sattva, Raja, and Tamoguna, which we can see in the last 17th chapter. But this faith has to be transcendental, everlasting, always improving quality. So endowed with great and transcendental faith. Teme Yukta Tamo Mataha. Yukta means the most Uttama. Uttatama means most perfect. Mataha means I consider. They are considered by me to be most perfect. So Krishna himself is giving his verdict about those who fix their minds on his personal form, always worshipping me, desiring to associate with me, endowed with great and transcendental faith, are considered by me to be most perfect. Such Ananya Bhaktas quickly attain me. So very easy, although it is very difficult to approach Krishna by the Vedas and all the sacrifices and austerities, penances, going to holy places, but it is very easy if Krishna is pleased with you. That's why you see that famous incident where Draupadi is having the Akshaya Patra, and once Durvasa Muni comes with all his assistants, and that particular day, it is not, the Akshaya Patra will not produce any more food. But that Durvasa Muni will become very angry if he is not satisfied. But then in the Akshaya Patra, there is some small grain which Draupadi gives to Lord Krishna, and when Krishna is satisfied, the sage and all his disciples become satisfied. So, now what is the process and destination of the impersonal Brahman worshippers? Those who do not choose to worship Krishna, we have only ultimately two paths. The other path, etva aksharam anirdesham abjaktam paryupasate. So what do the impersonal Brahman worshippers, or how do they dedicate their energy towards what? They are unmanifested. They are always, just like some people have some goals, they are not well-defined goals. They are all some kind of speculation, speculative goals they have. So it is unmanifested. You have then unmanifested, and which is beyond the akshara means, which is beyond sense perception, and avyakta means unmanifest, and then anirdeshyam means indefinite. It is not a definitive goal. They are not clear whom they are worshipping. Supposing you want to marry someone and you don't know about that person, that's an indefinite. So like that, if you're worshipping a god but you don't know his name, form, qualities and activities, then that is said to be indefinite. You keep on doing something with no aim or any objective. So those who fully worship the unmanifested, which is beyond sense perception, indefinite, sarvatragam achintyam cha. So what kind of objective is that? It's all pervading. They want to see God everywhere. Just like if you want to find a person everywhere, it is not possible because he is in one place. If you want to go and meet the Prime Minister, you cannot keep searching all over the country. You have to go find out where he is, in which place, at what time. So beside these people, they try to see the all-pervading feature, and it is achintyam, inconceivable. Because the scriptures are also giving this kind of knowledge, and they become attracted to these kind of information. So they become distracted by reading the scriptures. Kutastham, kuta means fixed, and achalam means immovable. Dhruvam means unchanging. So these are all the qualities of the God given in the scriptures itself. But this is not the ultimate knowledge. Just like if you're given a subject on some physics, chemistry, or biology, maths, there's so much information. Some things are very difficult, some are easy. So you have to be prioritize the way of understanding something. So some people try to understand God in his unmanifest feature, which is beyond sense perception, indefinite, all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable. So Sanniyamgendriya Gramam. And how do they try to achieve? By controlling the various senses. And Sarvatra Samabuddhaya, being equally disposed to everyone. Te prapnavanti mameva. Such persons at last achieve me. So instead of directly worshipping Krishna, just like if I have to reach my nose, I can directly touch my nose or put my hand around and reach the nose. So like that, some people instead of directly worshipping Krishna, why they don't want to directly worship Krishna? As I told earlier, they are not pure devotees. They want to get something from Krishna which is neither good for them nor for others. Just like Hiranyakasipu, he knows that very well that God will not fulfill his boons. So he started worshipping Brahma, or there are some demons who worship Shiva. So because they know that Krishna will not please fulfill their desires. So similarly, those who do not worship Krishna, they try to achieve their objectives by worshipping this feature of the Lord that is unmanifest, beyond sense perception, indefinite, all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, immovable, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. In other words, what does it mean being equally disposed to everyone? They think, why should I worship only God? Why can't I be good to all around me? That is, can try that, but ultimately it is not possible. But nevertheless, they want, just like a person wants to get the votes of people, he tries to please everyone. But we see that doesn't last for long. How much ever you try to please everyone, somehow or other they will be dissatisfied. So better is you try to please one God, and this way you satisfy everyone. So such persons at last achieve me, which means it takes a long time for them to achieve perfection. And sarva bhutem, sarva bhute hite rataha, that's being engaged in the welfare of all. In other words, these people have to do service to everyone before they realize God. Either you directly serve God and need not serve everyone, or you keep serving, avoiding God and keep serving everyone. So this is the, they have to do welfare work for all the living entities. If the impersonal is also attaining Krishna, what is the foundation of Krishna saying that the personalistic devotee are superior attainers of him? So someone may argue, okay, if you chose to attain Krishna by directly worshipping him, and I choose to attain him by this other process, so what difference does it make? Supposing a train is going stopping all the stations and one is not stopping everywhere. So some person may say, I don't mind. If time is not so important for me, I want to enjoy this ride. So like that, someone may ask, okay, if both the paths are going to lead to the same goal, why I should choose the first path? So the reason here Krishna is telling the troublesome path of the impersonal. So why is the second option going to be very troublesome? Krishna is going to explain them. Klesho adhikataras tesham. Klesha means troublesome. Adhikataras means very much, very troublesome. Klesho adhikataras tesham. Advancement is very troublesome for whom? Avyakta asakta chetasam. Avyakta asakta, who are attached to the avyakta. Asakta means attached. Avyakta means unmanifested, whose minds are attached to the unmanifested. Chetasam means minds, whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme. Avyakta hi gatir dukkam. To make progress toward the unmanifest is difficult. Dukkam. Dehavadvir avapsite. So why is it difficult? Because we are having a body. And having a body, we cannot worship something which doesn't have a body. So that's why it says for those who are embodied. Because the living entity always has to have a body. And once it has a body, it can approach only something which has a body. So this is the first reason that Krishna says. Then what is the difference between the Bhakti Yogis and Jnana Yoga? Some people are trying to attain the highest goal through knowledge instead of devotion. Some people argue that knowledge is superior to devotion. Those who worship the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis. Basically, they think that if I get knowledge about God, I can also become God, isn't it? Supposing a very high post is there. Either you understand your limitations and go agree to serve that person, or you think, no problem, I will also become like him by working my way hard or learning the subject myself, and I can also become the boss. So those who worship the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and those who perform devotional service in full Krishna consciousness are called Bhakti Yogis. So Jnana Yogi is thinking that I can become God through knowledge. The Bhakti Yogi thinks that no matter how much knowledge I acquire, my position is always subordinate to God. So better to use that knowledge to serve Krishna and love Krishna. So the Supreme Lord, the living entity, is also originally Satchidananda, eternal, knowledge and blissful. What is common between the living entity and the Supreme Lord is that both are eternal, they have knowledge and they are blissful. By Jnana Yoga, an embodied soul may realize the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is realized only by Bhakti Yoga, which is easier and natural for the soul. So even though we know that we are Satchidananda, if we have to experience the bliss feature, we need to engage in a relationship. And this relationship definitely has to be between the superior and inferior. If there is an equal a relationship, you cannot get bliss. For to get bliss, this inferior and superior is a must. So who is the best person to engage in that relationship is none other than the Supreme Lord. So by the grace of some devotee, a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti. So someone may say, okay, I don't have devotee association. I have only some knowledge. With that knowledge, maybe in future, supposing I come across a devotee, then I can also become a devotee. That has happened many times. Like the Sanat Kumaras, the four mental sons of Brahma, they were also not Bhakti Yogis. They were Jnana Yogis. But when they went to Vaikuntha and they got the association of the Lord, they became devotees. So even that goal of impersonal Brahman, which is attained by Jnana Yogi, by such suffering, is only by having a mixture with Bhakti. In other words, even if you want to succeed by the method of knowledge, you need to come in contact with the devotee. Why? Because when you come in contact with the devotee, that pleases the Lord. Because the Lord knows that through that contact with the devotee, ultimately you will come in contact with Himself, the Lord Himself. So that's when actually we get the results of any process. Without bhakti to the Lord, the worshippers of the impersonal Brahman obtain only suffering and not Brahman. Even if your goal is to attain Brahman, if you don't have bhakti, that goal is also elusive. So though the bhakti yogi also endure difficulty in controlling senses and engaging in the various angas of bhakti, because of the appearance of Krishna's blissful form, they do not experience the same suffering. So even in devotion also you have to endeavor. You have to undergo some struggle. But here the Lord is there to motivate you. That's why Krishna said in the 10th chapter, Tadami buddhi yogam tam. Yenamam upayanti te. In the process of bhakti, because you are doing it the way the Lord wants you to do, He comes personally to help you. Whereas in the other process, because He has not recommended and you are doing it on your own, so He's not likely to, even if He comes, He will consider it a disturbance. So He doesn't come in these other processes to help you. Whereas in the Bhakti Yoga process, even though you are struggling in the Bhakti, the Lord either comes personally or sends His representative or gives the scriptures which will guide us through. So therefore, the same amount of suffering, even if suffering is there, when you get the result, all the suffering, you forget it. Just like if you have worked very hard and very good result comes, then you immediately forget the pain you had to undergo. But if you don't get the result, both the endeavor is also painful and the result is also going to be painful. So the bhakti is the simple and easy path of personalists, ananya bhaktas. So why it is easy? Because God is coming to help you in this process. That's why it becomes easy. Otherwise, bhakti is also difficult in one sense. Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpara. Sarvani karmani means give up all their activities. Mayi sanyasya, unto me. Matpara, being devoted to me. So what is giving up all activities to me? Dedicating those activities to me. Doing the activities according to my direction. So Lord doesn't say you don't have to do anything except bhakti. Along with bhakti, you can do other things, but they should be dedicated to the Lord, being devoted to me. So the devotion is there and you engage in other activities, then that is also pleasing to the Lord. Ananyena eva yogena. Ananyena means without deviation. Yogena means engaged in devotional service. Mam jayanta upasiti. Jayanta means always meditating. Upasiti means worshipping me. Both the mind and the senses and the intelligence and the soul is engaged in serving the Lord. Tesham aham samuddatta. For them, I am the swift deliverer. He comes personally to help such devotees. For those who give up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me, without deviation, engaged in devotional service, always meditating upon me and worshipping me, for them I am the swift deliverer. Aham means I myself. Samuddartha means swift deliverer. Then Mrityu Samsara Sagarat. From what does he deliver us? From the ocean of birth and death. Why is it said to be ocean of birth and death? Because we are taking unlimited births and deaths. Because we are not able to attain perfection in one lifetime. We are not able to, perfection means fulfilling our desires. Our desires are never fulfilled. So when we please the Lord, then all our desires are automatically fulfilled. Bhavami cha na chirat partha. Bhavami means deliver. Chirat means quickly. I deliver them quickly, O son of Pruta. He helps them to succeed in this process of devotion. Maya aveshita chetasam, because they fix their minds upon me. If you are able to fix your mind upon Krishna, then he ensures that you attain him. That's what he told in the 8th chapter also. And we see in the, again repeated in the last chapter also. Manmanabhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam eshasyati satyamti pratijani priyosime. Now, thus Krishna explained the difference between worshipping his personal and impersonal features. While there is no reciprocation from the impersonal features, there is full protection and swift deliverance from the personality Krishna. Having established the supremacy of Bhakti, Krishna will now explain in the next 5 verses the multiple levels of Bhakti, beginning with the highest stage. So Krishna, because there are different people situated at different levels. So I may not be at the highest level, but definitely there will be someone at that level, and he can help the one below him, and I can help someone below me. So this is how it is organized. And so Krishna will, highest level is Bhakti with the internal senses. As I explained in the beginning, the soul also has its senses. And we have also subtle senses, and then we have the gross senses. Now, Bhakti can be done with the internal senses, that is the soul. Fix your mind on me exclusively, Mayeva man adatsva, by remembering me always. This is Smaranatmika Bhakti. Okay, if you cannot do Bhakti with your internal senses, you should fix your mind exclusively by remembering me always. If you constantly hear about him, chant about him, then this remembering becomes easy. That is Smaranatmika Bhakti. The next is fix your intelligence on me, Mai Buddhim Niveshaya, by contemplating on me based on scriptural descriptions. Okay, naturally you are not able to remember Krishna. At least while reading the scriptures, that will motivate you to remember Krishna. When the book is not there, you forget Krishna. When the book is in front of you, remember Krishna. Okay, at least you do that. That is, you are using your intelligence. This is Manana Atmika Bhakti. And then what is the result? You will live in me always without a doubt. By reading those scriptures, because all the time you are not able to remember Krishna, at least at the time of reading the book scriptures, you will engage your intelligence, and that way you will remember me. Okay. Now, then try to fix your mind on Krishna. If you cannot fix your mind upon, at least you try, endeavor, you put some effort. If you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then endeavor to fix the mind on me. In other words, Krishna is saying, do abhyasa, practice. Abhyas yoga by following the regulative principles of Bhakti. What is the regulative principles of Bhakti? Means in Bhakti, there are some things which are told you do this, you don't do this. Just like if you're a sick patient, the doctor will tell you, okay, you should take these foods, you should take this medicine, you should not avoid these foods. So that is known as sadhana bhakti. Withdraw the mind repeatedly from sense objects. Whenever the mind deviates, you try to bring it back and fix it on me. This is abhyasa. In other words, your practicing stage, abhyasa rupa bhakti. In this way, one can develop a desire to attain me. So why we are not able to fix our mind on Krishna or study the scriptures? Because the desire is not there. But if you do this mechanical way, then gradually the desire will come to fix your mind and fix your intelligence and fix your soul on Krishna. Now, Abhyas Yoga, how is it to be done? Under the guidance of a guru. Guru means who himself is convinced. Unless someone is convinced, he cannot convince you. So Guru means who has gone through all this practice and perfected it. One can follow the prescribed practice of Bhakti Yoga, like chant the holy names of Krishna, offering flowers, foodstuffs to the deity, taking prasadam, hearing scriptures from devotee, and so on. So there are some regulative principles which we have to daily inculcate. And the above 3 types of Bhakti, Smaranatmika, which is done with the soul, Mananatmika, which is done with the mind, and Abhyas Rupa, which is done with the senses, are performed internally with mind and intelligence. Intelligent and offensive people can perform them easily. Inoffensive people, while less intelligent, you will find them difficult. So, as the mind is fickle like the wind, one may not be able to restrain it. For those who cannot even gradually fix the mind to practice, Krishna suggests the following option. If you cannot do any of this, neither you can fix your soul, your intelligence, mind, or the senses, then what are the other options available? Bhakti is done with the external senses. So far, Krishna has talked about the internal senses. Now he's talking about external, means external to my body also. What you can do, work for Krishna. If you cannot practice sadhana bhakti, then just try to perform your activities for my pleasure. In other words, Krishna has given some other instructions. Like, okay, I cannot chant, I cannot read books, I cannot follow all these principles, I cannot approach a guru also. Then what to do? Then Krishna has given some other activities. Just try to perform your activities for him. Krishna said, okay, at least you can build some temples, or you can support people who are doing devotional service. You give money for the temple construction, or like that, or give sponsor money to do some puja. So if you cannot practice sadhana bhakti, then just try to perform activities for my pleasure. Mat karma paramo bhava. Though your mind is not on me. See, even if your mind is not on all these things, at least if someone has his mind on them and you are supporting him, that is also okay. Thus, you will attain perfection. Working for Krishna includes offering charity to build Krishna's temples or publish books. By doing such work, even without remembering Krishna, one can still attain perfection. In other words, there are some devotees who are meditating on Krishna, remembering Krishna all the time, but you cannot do that. At least you help such people. Voluntary work done for satisfaction of Krishna is spiritual activity. Those who can do bhakti by both internal and external senses are most outstanding, but one may not be able to even work for Krishna because of. So then this may also not be possible. Someone may say, no, even I cannot come anywhere near the temple. If I go to temple and read these books and attend classes, I will have face many problems. My family will object, my boss will object, my even wife may object, or husband may object, my children may object. So this sometimes people have these problems because or some countries are there, some countries it is prohibited to worship publicly. So because of social, family, and religious constitution, other impediments, Krishna will now advise uh, how such people to sacrifice the results of their activities, if not fully, at least some. So in other words, if you are not doing any of these, definitely you are engaged in some activity, and that activity will produce some result. For example, you will be earning some money. At least some amount you try to give it to others. Instead of trying to enjoy everything for yourself, at least learn the habit of sharing the benefit with others. That is the giving up the results of work. If you cannot offer all your actions to me, then try to act giving up the results of your work. Sarva karma phalatyagam. Definitely you have a body, you have a mind and intelligence. Use that, may not be for devotion, but at least some profit will come from that. You use it for others' benefit and try to be self-situated. At least you realize that I am the soul and not the body. So now Krishna is telling the stage-wise. One is abhyasa, sreyo hi jnanam abhyasad, jnanad dhyanam vishishyate, dhyanad karma phalatyagas, tyaga chantir anantaram. So having given so many options, still one may get confused. What is first and what is last? So therefore, Krishna categorizes that even among these different options, first comes abhyasa, which means you are doing things in a mechanical way. But better than that is knowledge. Do it with knowledge. Instead of doing things mechanically, better is to learn, get the required knowledge and do that thing. And better than that is meditation, which means you go deeper into that knowledge. You try to analyze that and understand properly. And then better than is renunciation of the fruits of work. In other words, you are able to utilize the results of your work better. And better than that is renunciation of the result. So in this way, one can attain peace of mind. So what is peace of mind? When you are engaged fully in devotion, then only you can be peaceful. If you are trying all the time that I will get some heavenly benefits, or I will get liberation, or I will get mystic powers, you can never be peaceful. Only when you satisfy Krishna through bhakti, one can attain peace or his original nature. This verse has been now. So the same thing has been summarized in the form of a table. Now, once we do devotion in these different levels, definitely we'll develop some good qualities, and that is appreciated by Krishna. So Bhakti Yoga is the most effective path of spiritual advancement. A Bhakti Yogi exhibits transcendental qualities which make him dear to Krishna. What is transcendental qualities means these never depreciate. Normally we acquire some things, they go away with time or situation. But these transcendental qualities will remain with us and continue with us from lifetime after lifetime. And that is why it is very dear to Krishna. Krishna is pleased with such a devotee as he describes in the section by using the word Priya in most verses. Repeatedly, the Lord keeps saying, these are very dear to me, these kind of devotees who develop these qualities. What are the qualities that endear one to Krishna? Because Krishna is the reservoir of all qualities. And if he sees these qualities in his devotee, he likes it very much. What are they? Adveshta Sarva Bhutana. Adveshta means not envious. Sarva Bhutanam towards anyone, including the envious. Supposing the snake is said to be the most envious. Even such envious creatures are not envied by this devotee. Envious means he is not trying fault with them. Then Maitraha, friendly to all. Karuna Evacha, merciful, kind to all. Nirmama, free from sense of proprietorship. This is mine, this is me, that me and mine mentality is giving up. And then Nirahankara, free from false ego identification with the body, identifying yourself with something which you are not. And Samadukka Sukha, equal in happiness and distress. Chami means forgiving or tolerant, Chamata. And Santushta means satisfied. What is he satisfied with? Satatam Yogi, always in devotional service. He is satisfied in doing devotional service. He doesn't have to depend on something other than devotion. And then Yatatma Drida Nishchaya. Drida Nishchaya means self-controlled and determined. And Arpita Mano Buddhi. Arpita means fixed. Maya means on me. What does he fix on me? Mana and Buddhi, mind and intelligence. Mind and intelligence are for separate purposes. Mind is accepting, rejecting. Intelligence is discriminating. So the mind has to accept and reject based on the guidance of the intelligence. Then Mat Bhakta, Yo Mat Bhakta Same Priya. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Further he says, Yasman no dvijite loko. No one is agitated by him. Lokan no dvijite chaya. He is not agitated by anyone. So this is very important. Even in the most agitating circumstances, if we are not disturbed, or if there's provocation also and we don't disturb others, that is the quality of a devotee. Just like Ambarish Maharaja, this Dhruva Muni tried to agitate him. Neither Dhruva Muni, Ambarisha got agitated, nor he agitated Dhruva Muni further. So, Harsha Marsha Bhayodvegat. Harsha Amarsha means joy. Harsha means happiness. Amarsha means distress. Bhayo means fear. Udvegar means anxiety. Equipoised in joy and distress, fear and anxiety. Mukto yasa me priya. Mukta means who is free from this anxiety, fear. And Mukto yasa me priya. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Anapeksha. Anapeksha means neutral, devoid of all expectation from his work. He does his work diligently, but he is not trying to determine the results by himself. He accepts whatever results come by the will of the God. Shuchi means pure and clean, pure internally and externally, in mind and body and words. Daksha, expert, skillful in all situations. And Udasina, without cares, unattached to material persons. It doesn't mean he's careless, he's carefree, because he is fully confident that Krishna will protect and maintain me. And then Udasina, without then Gata Sangha, free from all Gata Vyataha, free from all pains, as free from all designations. And Sarvarambha Parityagi, free from all material. Unnecessarily, he won't engage in endeavor for certain things. He knows very well that if I start this project, I'll be struggling and I'll not be get the success. So he knows beforehand what to do and what not to do. That's why he says Sarvarambha Parityagi. He doesn't begin some things which he cannot complete. Yo Mad Bhakta Same Priya. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Yo na Hrishyati na Dveshtati. Hrishyati means rejoices, Dveshti means grieves. Na Shochati na Kankshati, neither laments nor desires. That is, he doesn't lament for what he has lost, nor does he desire for what he doesn't have. Of course, he has to have some lamentation and desire, but it's not excessive. Shubha Shubha Parityagi renounces all auspicious and inauspicious things, which means this conception of auspicious and inauspicious is very related. So Bhaktiman Same Priyaha, such a devotee is very dear to me. Samashatrau cha mitrecha, equal to friends and enemies. Tada mana apamanayo, equipoised in honor and dishonor. Shitoshna shuka dukkeshu, heat and cold, happiness and distress. So how does he learn to tolerate all this? He knows that these come and go. See, he knows what is eternal and what is temporary, and always free from contaminating. It says, Samasangavajjitaha. Sangavajjita means unwanted association. We have to maintain association with people. We cannot be secluded from society, but we avoid taking the bad in others. We try to take the good from others. And Tulya Ninda Stutir Mauni. Tulya means equal. Equal to what? Ninda and Shruti, criticism and praise. You have to accept both criticism and praise and not become too elated or too depressed. Mauni means silent. That is, we have to speak only when required. Unnecessary speaking we have to avoid and invite problems. Sannishto yenakene, satisfied with whatever comes of its own accord. And Aniketa does not care for any residence. He doesn't expect things to always be the same. Even if the situations are changing, he is able to adapt them himself. Sthiramatir, steady in mind, fixed in knowledge. How he is able to fix his mind? Through knowledge. Bhaktiman Same Priya, such a devotee is very dear to me. Yetu dharmamritamidam yatoktam pavyupasate shraddhadhana matparama bhaktaste achiva me priyaha. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service completely engaged with faith, making me the supreme goal, such a devotee are very, very dear to me. So this is the conclusive statement that if we make Krishna as the goal and engage in devotional service, all these qualities which we talked about will gradually manifest. So that is the end of this chapter, very important and short chapter. Any comments or questions are welcome. So these middle 6 chapters are highlighting Bhakti Yoga, and they're said to be the jewel in the box of. So there's a question. What is manifestation? How is it different from unmanifestation? So manifestation means something which is perceptible with our gross and subtle senses. See, some things we can see with our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, when perceived. It has to have a in other words, it has to be made with earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Then only we can perceive them. Okay. Then we have the subtle senses. Some things we can conjecture, hypothesis. Even if I cannot see it, smell it, taste, or touch, and hear, I can conclude, I can experience still, that effects can still be felt. Supposing I have seen the sun 6 hours back, but now I don't see, but I can conjecture as that maybe after 12 hours I will see it again. So although I cannot see it right now, but I can hypothesize that I will see it again. So like that, there are many experiences which are directly I can perceive right now and indirectly I can perceive. But beyond that is the unmanifest. Unmanifest means it is not visible to both my gross and subtle senses. So that is, we can get information from that only from a person who has seen it. Supposing I have not visited one country and I have never seen it, even I cannot imagine about it. But if someone has gone there and he comes and tells me, then that becomes manifest before me in the sense that I can visualize it. So this is manifest. So basically it depends on our knowledge of things.
So the next question is from Jafunisa Mataji. She's asking, through Yogamaya potency, Lord incarnate as Lord Krishna. He was there in past, in present, and will be there in future. Then to imagine original form of Supreme Personality.
Yeah, so there are 2 types of Yogamaya. One is the internal potency of the Lord, and another is this Mahamaya, the external potency. When the Lord incarnates, Yogamaya Samavrita. That means Mudoyam Navya Yogamaya. That is because some living entities, they don't want to see God. So this Yogamaya prevents us from seeing God. But the same Yogamaya potency, when we take to devotional service, it reveals Lord Krishna to us. Just like you go to a temple, sometimes they put a curtain. And they put a curtain so that we cannot see the deity for some time. For some purpose, they close the curtain. And the same Pujari, sometimes he removes the curtain so that we can have darshan of the Lord. Similarly, this Yogamaya potency, depending on our level of devotion, it can manifest God before us or make God unmanifest to us. But he is nevertheless present all the time. For those who have devotion, this Yogamaya potency enables them to seek God all the time in past, present, and future. So what is your question?
He's asking how.
Yeah, so better than imagining the form of the Lord is, we hear it from the devotees who are able to see. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilojana Santas Sadev Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunasrupam Govinda Mali Purusham Tamaham. There are some devotees who can see Krishna all the time, and they can reveal to us even if we cannot see him. So they will reveal this form of the Supreme Lord.
So we do not have to imagine the form of the Lord. We get to know about the form of the Lord from the scriptures and from such realized devotees that Prabhuji is mentioning. So
just like you go to a doctor, sometimes you see an X-ray, but you cannot understand what is there in the X-ray or some report. But he has the knowledge and he can tell you, explain to you what that report means. Similarly, the devotee is able to see Krishna all the time, in past, present, and future. So he can reveal to us. That's why it is indispensable that we have to depend on the devotee. Even when you go to the spiritual world, we are under the guidance of some superior devotee. So that is inevitable. The next question, what is the difference between Tyaga and Nishkama Karma Yoga? Tyaga means when, that's what Krishna will clarify in the last chapter, 18th chapter. Tyaga means we do everything for Krishna. That is real Tyaga. But if you cannot come up to the level of doing everything for Krishna, then we have to begin with Nishkama Karma Yoga, where we are attached to the karma activity, but gradually get detached ourselves from trying to enjoy the results of the activity. But when that karma is done only for Krishna, then it becomes Tyaga or Bhakti. Right now we are attached to the work because we are not able to give up attachment to the results. But gradually, when we give up attachment to the results of the work, then it's known as Nishkama Karma Yoga. But when we give up both the work and the results for Krishna, then it is known as Tyaga or renunciation. So thank you very much. Join us for next important session, 13th chapter, Nature, Enjoyer and Consciousness. Very important because it talks about material nature and the spiritual nature. An enjoyer means two types of enjoyer are there. One is the living entity and the supreme super soul. And consciousness, two types of consciousness. One is the consciousness of the living entity and the consciousness of the super soul. So this chapter is very important to fix the knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower. Okay, so we'll be doing a detailed discussion on this chapter also from Monday to Friday in English and Hindi from 7 to 8 o'clock. Please join us in any of the days or all the days. Hare Krishna. Kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo